You just have to give up knowing. You just have to be willing to live in the place of not knowing. And if you're willing to do that, I can guarantee you can build your business faster, have a lot more fun, meet some amazing people, get exciting experiences, have great clients, and go places that right now you can't even imagine because they haven't yet occurred in your imagination.
Hi, everybody. This is Jason Marc Campbell. Welcome back to the Selling with Love podcast. Today, we're going to actually start looking at what does it look like if you're on your road to make your first million. Now, what's the emotion that comes up when you talk about a million? Is it something that you're like, oh yeah, been there, done that? Is it something that's even in your realm of possibility? And what are the steps that you would take if you were on that road? Well, I have a guest today here who is the host of the Conscious Millionaire podcast. He's the CEO of the Conscious Millionaire Institute. His name is JV Crum III, and he is a man that has been working on helping people really get into the mindset to become millionaires themselves, doing it in a way that makes the world a better place. And we're going to talk about a key component of being able to actually make an impact, have influence, and do it with integrity, which is this concept of flow. One of the keys when it comes to having a money mindset, it's an important piece of the puzzle. And we're going to dig a bit more into how is this going to be helpful? How do you start applying it? And what do we need to do to start having an expanded mindset to really go and make the impact we always wanted? JV, welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Well, Mark, I am so happy to be here. And it was such a pleasure to have you on my show talking about your book, Selling with Love, because what a wonderful concept. And it's actually a flow concept because love is flow. Love is not static. Love moves in the direction of consciousness because love propels consciousness forward. And so I love that you are focused in that direction.
Well, I appreciate the compliments. And yeah, I have been on your Conscious Millionaire show. I've had a chance to interact. You've been also coming to teach the Mind Valley community as well through one of the workshops there. And flow has been a key part of your teachings, especially recently. I know this has been something we really want to put attention to. And I wanted to expand there to start, which is you're talking about the difference between flow and static. What does that look like in our realities, and why should we be aware of those differences?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, why don't we start with an understanding of how flow is even possible? And I like to do the analogy of a river, because when you're connecting with the flow of life, the direction that it's headed, you're getting into the river of energy that's moving in a specific direction. But a lot of times people think about flow and they only focus on the process of like water flowing. But it's important to remember that the difference between a river and a lake is that a river has boundaries, so there's structure as well. But if you don't have those two river banks, what you really have is a lake. And having grown up on a 4 by 5 mile lake, one of the things I know is that at the shoreline, it eventually reaches a place that it's about an inch of water and then there's none because it just sinks into the middle, right? Whereas flow is moving in a direction, and it's nice to think of that as the river. But let's go back and talk about energy. So I think there are three directions, three ways in which energy flows, but let's first talk about what is energy. So we have Einstein, everything is energy, and energy is never either created nor destroyed. So I find a relationship between flow and intuition. And because I'm highly intuitive and also very connected to flow and had a lot of NLP and scientific background, I took kind of a scientific approach, Mark, of going, so what's going on here from like an NLP perspective? Because in NLP, you can duplicate anything. If you can uncode it, you can encode it into other people. And I said, well, some days I'm in magic. Everything's magical. And then some days it's unmagical, right? And I said, well, I want more of these magical days, and I want to help other people have more magical days, because if we have more magical days together, we have a more magical humanity, and I like that idea, and I particularly like to live in that. So I started noticing, well, what's going on when things are magical, and what's going on when they're not? What's the difference? And I said, what's going on relationship to that, to intuition? Well, we have a kind of a continuum. Now, in the metaphysical world, it kind of goes from intuition to psychic. I don't actually use the word psychic because I think what's going on here is just levels of awareness. And at some levels, a lesser level awareness, but still very important, we call it intuition. At a very high level, we say, oh, well, that person must be psychic. Well, why don't we just say it's levels of awareness, and it's on a continuum? But the question begs, awareness of what? And so it's really awareness of energy. Okay, so we're aware of energy, and, that kind of begs, so what? What difference does that make? Well, here's the difference I think it makes. Energy is just encoded information. And if we say in every unit of energy, just have a way to discuss it, there's information. And therefore, the more aware we become, the more aware we become of that information. And when we get into the flow, we become aware of how that information is flowing forward. And that's called having an intuition or an awareness of the future on a timeline, which can be very useful for building your business and making financial decisions. And it's very useful for finding clients and opportunities, because when you get into that flow, all of a sudden what happens is your energy shifts from a vibratory level, because the higher your level of vibration, the more you're attracted to things that vibrate at that level, and the more they attract to you, because this is basic quantum physics. So let's look at, well, how can we get into flow? And I like to do things that are, when I wandered into NLP, which was 1985, so I had the good fortune of training with all the original people like Bandler and Tad James and all these people. And it was at that same time that I was beginning to have a lot of what might properly fit into metaphysical things. Out-of-body experiences, knowing what's going to happen next Wednesday at 4:30 at a specific place, and it always happening. Walking into the law library and knowing the thoughts of everybody, and then they'd open their mouths and say them. Now, because I had no reference points for any of that, I had originally thought I was having a psychotic break, because I said, well, this is very strange. And this whole thing of being out of your body and everything, I'm going, and I'm not taking drugs, so what's the deal here? So what was happening was I was beginning to tap into, and if you're familiar with Stan Groff, I took a workshop with him and I talked to Stan and I said, so what was going on when all this happened? And he goes, I call that spiritual emergence, and it happens spontaneously without warning and typically without reference points. I had no reference points for walking in the law library and knowing people's thoughts. I had no reference points for being out of my body. I had no reference points for meeting people and immediately feeling I had known them in what we would call another lifetime. I didn't have a reference point. I'd never even read on any of that. Okay, so that's kind of the metaphysical end of it. Now let's look at the practical end of that. If you can get into flow and you can begin to intuit where things are going, and you can begin to attract opportunities and clients and money, and know what direction to go in, can't you build your business, create wealth, and also impact the world at higher levels? Because at Conscious Millionaire, everything we do has the dual outcome of combining impact and money, hence Conscious Millionaire. So let's look at the 3 steps that I've discovered that anybody, I've taught this to, I have no idea how many people I've taught it to. I teach it to anybody who will listen, basically. And the truth is, you can take complete control over when and where you get into flow. It's not accidental. You can have complete control over it. Now, I'm going to kind of pull back the curtain before I give you the 3 steps. You can take complete control over getting into flow. However, the paradox I have to tell you up front is that the only way that you can have control over getting into flow is to let go of all the control. It's to surrender completely into the flow. And by surrendering, you have given up all the control. So that's the paradox. You can have control of when and where you get into flow as long as you're willing to give up all control. So here's the 3 simple steps. And being in flow is a lot closer than you might imagine. You might think, oh, there's all this, I got to work hard. No, absolutely. I'm going to give you 3 steps, and the first one only takes a minute, and we're going to do it together. So the first one is about getting present. Now, I've lived at a Buddhist monastery. I imagine that you meditate, but you know what? You don't have to meditate. You don't have to go through any of that if you don't want to. A meditation does help you get present, but you can get present with 3 breaths. Let's do them together. So we're going to do 3 deep breaths. When we take in the breath, I'm going to count to 3, and then we're going to let it out. And in less than 60 seconds, you will notice an amazing shift in how present you are. So let's do them. Let's breathe in. That's right. Thank you. And hold to 3, 2, 1. And just let go and breathe out. That's right. Thank you. And breathe in, and even deeper. That's correct. Thank you. 3, 2, 1. And breathe out. There you go. Thank you very much. Just let go. It's so relaxing. And one more time, breathe in, deeper and deeper. That's right. And 3, 2, 1. And just let go as you relax and breathe out. That's right. Just surrender in that breath as you breathe out. And notice the profound state change you had in less than 60 seconds and how much more present right now you feel. And that's the first and most important step. The second one is to simply be open to new possibilities. I'm a big scheduler. I'm a big strategic plan guy. And I have learned to let go of all of that and turn on a dime if my inspiration is none of that's right. Because here's the deal. In your business, you might have an outcome for 90 days from now. And you've got specific ideas about how to get there. And that's a good thing. That's called planning for the future. However, in this present state of being in the flow, you may connect with synchronicity, which are just magical, miracle kind of moments that happen, where someone gives you a call, or you open a book, or you go to a website, or you're in line someplace and someone says something, and all of a sudden you go, oh wow, that's the answer. And it no longer takes 90 days. It may take 9 minutes. You may meet the person who says, oh, you were looking for 100,000? Well, here's how we could do that. I'll help you do it. All of that's possible because you're open to new possibilities. And you're always willing, one of my favorite words is journey, another one is iterate. You're always willing to change. And then the third one is to act with authenticity. And sometimes that's a little harder to understand, so let's make it easy. When you make a decision, or you take a step, or you're walking down the street and you're thinking about, well, maybe I'll turn left, or maybe I'll turn right. One of them feels right to you. And you might feel that in your body through some sensation, or you get a visual or an auditory clue. But one of them, you go, yeah, that's the direction to go. And the other one, you go, I don't feel that much that way. You know, I have traveled all over the world, 5 continents, 40 countries, primarily by myself. And I'm one of those explorer guys who goes out at midnight and walks down alleyways. I have never once had any problem whatsoever because I simply pay attention. And when I look down an alleyway and the answer is, nope, don't go down there, I don't go down there. And I look down another one, it's like, oh, that's a good one to explore. I go down there. That's what I mean by authentic. And when you are present and open and authentic, all of a sudden synchronicity starts to occur. And that's when the real magic happens. That's when you meet someone that you never had any plan of meeting, and they become the love of your life, or they become your next client, or they become a new business partner, or there's some kind of a deal you can do, or they invite you to a conference, and at that conference, you meet 20 people you do business with. Now, this is actually how it works. So you can do it the old way. It's a lot of work. Or you can do it this way and have a lot of fun. You just have to give up knowing. You just have to be willing to live in the place of not knowing. And if you're willing to do that, I can guarantee you can build your business faster, have a lot more fun, meet some amazing people, get exciting experiences, have great clients, and go places that right now you can't even imagine because they haven't yet occurred in your imagination, but they have in the imagination and consciousness of the universe. And so that's about present timing and perfect timing and just connecting and being on the journey of allowing this to happen. And that to me is the magic of being in flow.
JV, I feel like we just listened to a masterclass. And so I'm so grateful you're coming here and sharing so openly. And as you're telling the story, I just can't help myself but relate to a recent experience that happened for me. Was at the time of this recording, it was International Women's Day last week. And as a gift towards my partner, I booked a holiday for the weekend, and it was for Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I was like, oh, Monday, maybe I should be working. But I was like, no, I'm going to give, I'm going to be present. I'm going to spend some quality time with my partner. And so we had an amazing little trip to this little island next to Bali. And on the way back, I had this urge. There was this something needed to be, I was like, there's something I need to put into work. I didn't know what it was, but there was something that was waiting to be, call it manifested. And there was a certain agitation from it. I had spent this weekend being present, being in a great vibration, great energy. And then on the way back, I was like, something's trying to be created. And so I went off, I started doing some work. I, just from the moment of a 10-minute conversation, got a new client. Then I had somebody reach out to me saying, I want to work with you, had prepared a ton of work, and the work that they were going to do for me was exactly what I've been looking for, was a person to handle specific tasks within the business that I was feeling anxiety. I was trying to push and make work and make fit together. And someone just came up, said, I love your work, I want to work with you, and I can handle all these problems for you. And I was like, what's going on? All these things happened within the first 2 days of the week. I had accomplished more than I had done in the 2 weeks before that in 2 days. And I was like, well, I need to take more holidays, but not to focus my attention on the wrong thing. But I realized that when I'm very present in the right energy, and, I didn't know these things were going to come up, but they did. And they ended up being better than what I could have imagined for myself. Is this the type of thing that we're talking about?
Yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about. And what I love about your story and what it illustrates is that I tell people that when you're in the flow, I can guarantee you'll have synchronicity. What I cannot guarantee is what the synchronicity will bring you, because it's going to be authentic for your soul path. And I don't know what that is. I just know the process for tapping into it. And you don't have to know what's right for your soul path either. That's the great thing about it. All you have to do is be willing to receive. And just like you explained, you knew, if this was not the right person, you would have known that. Right? And instead it was like you were open to receive. And I think that's a very important ancillary topic to flow, is that if you're not open to receiving, it's going to be very difficult to connect with that flow. Because the universe has what I call limitless abundance. I was doing a masterclass today and talking about that there's limitless abundance. But what's the point of me teaching you how to make millions of dollars if you're not open to receiving the millions of dollars? You'll never get it. So opening to receive, and I think that whether it's money, relationships, health. I don't care what it is. I think it's all about opening to receive love. That I think it's just different ways that love manifests. And that's why I love just even the title of your book, To Sell with Love. It's like, well, what other way would you want to sell? You know? What other way would you want to buy? And, I hang out with a lot of people, and increasingly, I'm finding a lot of people's marketing strategies, I just, I don't even want to be a part of them. I don't want to buy from them, to be blunt. I don't want to have them on my show. I don't want to associate with them because it's like dead energy. That's all designed to manipulate. And even the word, what's your hook? Well, there's a difference between a hook and a message about the value you are bringing to people. Now, your hook can include a message of value, but it's like conventional business that's only about money. I do not invest in conventional business. I don't have clients that do conventional business because it doesn't interest me. It's not that there's something evil or bad about it. I want to be clear. It's that I'm only interested in doing what will uplift humanity. And conventional business does not uplift humanity. Only conscious business does, because conscious business is designed specifically to combine the two elements of uplifting humanity with making money. And to me, that's the future of all business. It's the future of businesses that I don't do business with businesses that aren't that way. I don't invest in them. I don't want them as clients because I want everything that I'm touching, everything that I'm doing to have the intention and the outcome of uplifting humanity. And that's the difference to me between the core of conventional business that's always first and foremost about profit or money, and conscious business that, if it's put together right, is first and foremost about impact. And the money, for which there is limitless money to come from that, comes from the result of making impact. And so the first question has to be, what impact do you believe you're on the planet to make, and what's going to bring you joy on a daily basis to make that impact? Because the other impacts aren't even the ones you're here to make. Just leave them for somebody that they're here to make them. I love working with entrepreneurs because I know entrepreneurs can build businesses that change the world. And it's one of the fastest ways to change the world. But I like the interplay of helping humanity and making money. To me, that's just, that's a kind of ultimate joy. But for other people, that wouldn't be joy at all. And maybe they need to be on the path of healing the traumas of single mothers, which I think is a very beautiful thing to do. We all have our path.
I absolutely love the conversation that we have here because it's an embodiment of exactly what I also preach, what I also teach, what I want people to start with, because the first love in selling is love the impact. And so, JV, I love that you're here as a role model for a lot of people who are looking to make that million. And you've given us some keys that we can definitely step into to at least be more in touch with the ways that we can make decisions, especially in a time like this, where there's so many people that are fighting for our attention and telling us you need to do it that way. But yet what we're sharing here is, no, the way comes from within, and there's ways to tap into that flow. And you can actually become more present, where these decisions will be less exhausting and more inspiring. I think that's a powerful way for people to move forward.
And it's something I like to say, and it's certainly not my phrase. I think it must have come from some deeper Eastern path. And that is, when you're in flow, the path reveals itself. And that's why you can feel comfortable letting go.
You get into a position where you can actually surrender and realize that you're going to be on the right path, even if you don't know what's going on, but you have a trust in the universe.
Well, I was having a conversation, I'm moving, in 3 weeks. And Monday I was having a conversation with someone and saying, well, I'm moving in 3 weeks, but I don't have a place yet, but I'm not concerned about that because I know it's going to appear. And Tuesday it appeared. And then you and I were having a conversation that I've been mulling over, during this interview. And that is, okay, so I found the place, I met with the person, but their style of business is casual. I'm an attorney. My style of business is, okay, we've agreed on something, but we still have to sign the paperwork. We still have to do that, or it's not an agreement. It's not, because it's real estate. Real estate does not pass by an oral agreement. It passes by a written agreement. And it's like they said, oh, I'll send you all the paperwork. And that was last night. And so I still don't have it. And I go, well, in my heart, I know it's going to work out, but it also still must be signed to have a real estate deal, right? It's not a real estate deal unsigned. So it's interesting because I think it brings up something very practical. You can be in the flow, you can know you're headed in the right direction, but you still, if you're doing business, have to do good business. It's not like you throw this away. It's not like you say, oh, well, I made this deal with someone and it'll be okay. And I go, no, not necessarily, because if you don't write it down with no bad intention, the two of you may have different memories. And then it's not okay, right? Now it harms your relationship. Now it harms your future business because you have a different memory. And not by any malintent. It's just the way we work as human beings. If we don't have it written down, sometimes I have to go back and look at agreements I've made with people and go, that is what I agreed to. What do you know? Okay. So, there it is. So, yeah, so you have to interplay the two. You have to bring them both together.
I love that we position this as introducing a new tool that facilitates the function of business, not throwing away the old and replacing it. Is how do you complement it? Because we have to operate in this 3D space, but we can tune into an extra dimensionary sensory flow that I think is very powerful for those who want to move forward. JV, I feel like we just touched the surface, and I'm actually excited because before we got on the call, you mentioned that there is an additional training people could continue on this journey. If we've gotten inspired with the messages you've shared today, what could be a powerful next step people could take?
Well, since we started off with the idea of how do you get to your first million, I actually am doing a masterclass called First Million Masterclass. And in it, I go over what I've discovered. Starting at the age of 5, I discovered 3 of the 7 money mindsets at the age of 5 when I made the profound decision that I was going to grow up and be a millionaire. Now, the reason that was profound is I grew up in a family that didn't have any money in a little country town where nobody had any money. And not only did I make that decision, but when my mom told me, don't tell anyone, I went knocking on the doors to announce to the community that I had decided to grow up to be a millionaire. And at 25, I got there with the 4-story home, the Mercedes and all of that. And it was because of mindset shifts that I went through. And so I use these 7 money mindsets and training about them to unlock people's potential. Because the truth is, there is no accident in anything. Everything is about energy, attracting energy. And if you're listening to this episode, then I want to assure you that you can make your first and your next and your next and your next million. It's not like this is something that only belongs to some people. It's something that everybody on this planet can live in limitless abundance. And I know you might immediately go, because this is the first mindset, which is about limitless abundance. And go, oh, but JV, there's not enough resources. I love that one. Yeah, technology is just solving that really rapidly with nanotechnology and 3D. We can 3D print a home already, right? We'll be 3D printing our cars before long. You don't even need to go to the dealership anymore. So the truth is, it's a myth that there's a static amount of wealth or money potential in the world. It is limitless. And here's the proof. Wealth, real wealth, is made by adding value to other people's lives. And the last time I checked, there's over 7.5 billion people on this planet, and every one of us Every one of us has the ability to add value to other people's lives. And that's how we create wealth. So the real question in the new world that we're all creating together is how much value can I create and how quickly for how many people at what level? And that's going to determine your wealth. But the simple fact is there is no limit on what that is for you or anybody else on the planet. And certainly not for the synergistic, result of all of us playing together to live in this limitless, abundant place. There is no necessity that anyone doesn't have food or water or health care or shelter or education. That is all absolutely possible. It is a mindset that people are living in the scarcity world, that there isn't enough, when it is true that if you live in the limitless abundance world, in your mind, you and other people who live there can work together to create these outcomes. That's the truth.
JV, absolutely love it. For everybody listening in, look into the show notes. You're going to have a link where you can go and join this masterclass for your first million.
And can I give them the link?
Oh yeah, if you have a simple link, let's go for it.
Absolutely. It's very simple. It's the word thefirstmillionmasterclass.com. Be sure to put thefirstmillionmasterclass.com, and you can sign up. It's absolutely free. It's a 90-minute training, and I guarantee it will change your outlook, your mindset, and the whole trajectory of your financial future.
JV, thank you for that. It is included in the show notes as well. If you want to just be able to click on a link, you'll find it there. And I just want to thank you, JV, again, for sharing all this insight. We talked about flow. We talked about what are the ways that you can tap into this intuition, this way of seeing how things can unfold, help you make better decisions, and do it in a way that's more fun, less struggle, but doesn't throw out the old system, but rather works with a system to make it so that you get yourself into a better, abundant place more efficiently, more beautifully, and really being focused on what is that key thing that we do is adding value, making impact. It's such a powerful lesson, and it's something that I want to repeat and make sure everybody gets to live, understand, and be as we listen to this podcast and continue on our journey, building our businesses, making sales, and truly being focused on that impact. As I've mentioned, it is the first love of selling with love. And when you find yourself aligned with people like JV, you can go and pick up a copy of The Conscious Millionaire as well. You can register to this masterclass. All of these are informations that will get you to reinforce this muscle and play it all out. Once again, JV, thank you so much for being on the show. For all you listeners, go out there, get into flow. And of course, don't forget to register to that masterclass. TheFirstMillionMasterclass.com is where you'll find more information. Register for free. And thank you all for tuning in. I am your host, Jason Marc Campbell, and this is the Selling with Love podcast.